welcome back. We will discuss what is happening in DeFi, what's going on. We will explore together why DeFi is a paradigm shift in the financial industry as we know it today. All right, guys, and welcome back at ON-DeFi. And today we have a very special guest. We have G-Host from Axie Infinity, and NFTs are booming. And I know G-Host from a very from like I think 2 or 3 years ago right now. And we met each other in Manila when I was still there, and we were spreading the word about Axie back then already. And he's a real long-term DeFi believer, long-term NFT believer, and he basically, in my opinion, built the most exciting and at this point the most developed game on a blockchain or NFT games. And he's gonna tell much more about that. So welcome, Jos. Thank you very much for being here, and I'm looking forward to our chat.
Yeah, thanks for the invite, man. Super excited to be here. And yeah, it's been a couple of years since we first met, and things have just absolutely blown up since then. So amazing.
It is really amazing what has happened, and I think similar to what's now happening in DeFi, where we both are, very much following and researching in this space. Did you expect the NFT space to take off as it did, or is everything coming as a surprise for you as well right now?
You always feel that it's a little bit surreal when something that you've been dreaming of finally happens, right? And I've always had a firm conviction that NFTs would change the world, that NFTs would change gaming and the way that people interact with games. There were times where it seemed like it wouldn't happen, and like adoption was just happening so slowly. But I think there's always been this conviction on my part, on the part of the Axie team and even the Axie community, that NFTs are a real thing. They empower people. We've seen it firsthand. So I think it's easier if you're building in the space and you're using these products to have the conviction, because you see the way that it empowers people and brings them, new freedoms, new property rights.
Yeah, we saw like a boom, and right now, as of looking through your daily active user stats, I see around 20,000 daily active users. That is unheard of for many blockchain applications or many games in general, I would say. So that is amazing. And this growth, I think, started at the beginning of this year. You saw this, this spiking up. Basically in 2019 already, there's a nice spike going up, and then now, in January 2021, it really exploded.
Yeah, it's been amazing to see the growth. We're still in an era where it's very difficult to get onboarded with Axie, with NFT games. Right now there is a lot of friction around acquiring crypto, getting a wallet set up. And then even if you go through those steps, you have to pay these very high gas fees. So it's been amazing to see the growth despite those kind of headwinds, right? But yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing to see the community really come together. And we couldn't be more excited. 20,000 daily active users. I think it's a good first step. We're looking to get to hundreds of thousands, millions. We think that blockchain games will be much larger and much more important than, kind of current conventional mainstream games. It will bring in an entirely new audience, because, you're not just getting people who are playing for fun. You're getting people who are also playing to earn. And that opens up an entirely new audience. Basically, entire parts of the world, I think, will be playing these games because of the way that NFTs and blockchain can create a shift. So
I completely agree, and I think I announced you, and we dive right into the conversation. But maybe what is your best, shortest explanation about what Axie Infinity actually is, and it's how did you make it so addictive?
Sure. So Axie Infinity is a NFT universe. There are these cute but also pretty fierce pets called Axies. You can battle them, you can collect them. I think what makes Axie special is that the in-game economy is a real money economy by default. Players can sell their assets to anyone, anywhere in the world without fear of being scammed because we use smart contracts for that. And then we also have tokenized rewards that you can earn by playing the game. So traditionally, game developers, they sell in-game resources. We don't sell those. Those markets are controlled by players, which basically allows people to play to earn through our game.
That's a very good explanation, and it's like I saw that in a tweet of yours. If you would have played Axie, I think at the beginning of 2020, you would have made a salary of around like $50 an hour or $20 an hour or something like that.
I mean, there are different ways, right? There are people who are collectors, who they just buy and hold some of the rarest Axies, or even there's land within the game. And then there are also people who are, kind of grinding and going up the PvP leaderboard, farming these potions, which are actually tokenized and actually they're on Binance, right? So again, so there are different ways there's different ways. It really depends on kind of your skill. I would say right now, like for an average player, I think that the salary or the wage for playing Axie is probably around $3 to $4 an hour.
Yeah, and that's for a lot of people. That's a good salary, especially like in the Philippines or in Vietnam. And your team and you are now, I believe, you now live in Korea, but your development team is mostly in Vietnam at the moment, right?
Yeah. So I'm not the creator of Axie Infinity. I'm an early, I'm a co-founder. I was one of the early team members that kind of, saw that there was something really special happening with Axie. I actually met two of my other co-founders, or two of the other, early teammates. So Trung, he's the creator of Axie, and Trung and Masamune. And I met Trung through CryptoKitties, which was obviously a very early blockchain gaming experiment. It was kind of like an NFT collectible, more so than a game. And then, with the team is very, I think we're distributed, but we also do have a headquarters in Vietnam. I spent a lot of time in Vietnam, over the last couple of years, just due to Corona or due to COVID. I've been out in Korea and different places, the US.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and it's really cool to see this whole ecosystem evolve. And when I look at Axie, and I recommend everybody from watching this channel to go to the Axie Infinity website, go to the marketplace, or start playing, start downloading the app. It's really amazing, and it evolved so quickly. It's the development speed also during the more bearish market sentiment in 2019. When I first looked into Axie, it was just a web-based game where it is just a marketplace, and then you can log in online. You have a web app where you can like fight or breed your Axies. And now there's a Android app developed. So there's a lot of new things added to the ecosystem. I feel that Axie is kind of like an ecosystem where also you will open up more and more places for people to also build their own cool ideas that they want to build on different land plots or different parts of the ecosystem, right?
Yeah, I think the way that we see it is Axie isn't just one game. It's an entire universe of games. It's an ecosystem. It's a community. So, we've built one game right now that is, centered. It's kind of like a card-based battle system. We're also working on a land-based game that's kind of like an MMO RTS where you're building up a kingdom on top of these land plots. We just see that also as one game built on top of land. We envision that there will be many different games built on top of land by not just us, but also other game developers. And we're building an SDK, right? So we're into, you can think of decentralization, right? There are different layers of decentralization, right? There's decentralization of data storage. There's decentralization of the network, right? So for example, we have a governance token so that we aren't a centralized entity that owns the entire ecosystem. And then there's also decentralization over time of game development, where you don't want, right? Like, you don't want there to only be one entity building on top of the game that has all of the responsibility to create content. Right now, that's fine and that's good. I think that's necessary. But over time, right, we believe in user-generated content, and for hopefully there being game companies far more talented than us, and maybe in some cases building stuff on top of Axie.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and there is a lot of examples in actually the current gaming landscape. I'm looking for one of them, that the Emporia universe, for example. I don't know if you heard about that game. Probably you did, or World of Warcraft, or anything like that. And there was this whole ecosystem evolving, especially also in the Entropian universe. You see people actually coming into the game and becoming goldsmiths, or becoming, owning their own marketplaces and things like that. And but it is all centralized, right? It's all centralized. So there's one centralized game development company that just gives out one centralized currency, and for some magical reason they managed it very, very well. Actually, it's still alive. It's still, functioning. But like with a blockchain, you could do these things much better. And we see that now evolving on top of Axie, in my opinion. And what I really like is that you are now getting the recognition. But before that, it was a little bit, it was more like, you kept on building, and now you build all this whole infrastructure, and still a lot of people don't know Axie well enough, in my opinion. So everybody needs to start playing it and buy land, buy some Axies, and start playing. But more and more people recognize what's going on there. And you see the largest NFT sale of all time, and this is already, this was when was this? This was like a couple of weeks ago, right? The 9 Genesis plots that were sold for $1.5 million. That's amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, it's the largest. We believe it's the largest game asset sale of all time. So basically, within the Axie universe, there are land plots that people can build on top of. Eventually build different experiences, but also in in the coming years, start to harvest resources. And as I mentioned, we're building that kind of MMO RTS where you build up an army and attack resource nodes and team up with friends. So yeah, I think there was a new collector in the ecosystem named Flying Falcon, and I think he had a really interesting quote where he said that basically what we're seeing is the rise of digital nations that with property rights, even right governance structures, right, that are all kind of based within these virtual worlds. And I think NFTs, blockchain, right, they allow for the ownership layer, basically the property rights, right? I studied military and economic history, right? So what you learn is that for state building, the number one thing that you need is firm property rights. If you have strong property rights from the beginning, then the country or the nation that gets built can be very strong, right? This is this is like from the Anglo-American tradition of kind of, I guess, free market capitalism, right? And what we've seen is we've never actually seen free markets within games. So this is, I think, like a market-based approach or a free market-based approach to building games. And we think that it's going to make games that are far more interesting, that make far more sense, and that reward the users in a new way.
Yeah, that would be amazing to see that happen, and I think people will make their full-time jobs out of this. One more, like one step back for the the land game that you're describing there. How can I best compare that? Is it something like Clash of Clans a little bit, like where you have your own plots and?
Yeah, the Clash of Clans is it's kind of similar. There are some similarities, right? There's inspiration from things like Clash of Clans, Stardew Valley, Rise of Kingdoms, right? Where I think it's generally you're building up a base, you're using it to harvest resources. There's an aesthetic progression, right? Like you want your city to look cooler, and then also kind of this military progression. In the future, also, we see the land system as being very open, where people can just kind of go around, explore, and build experiences on top of it as well. But also, I think our approach is kind of unique and in the space where we believe in like populating it with really fun, strong content that makes a very pointed decision in terms of like what the experience is going to look like from the beginning.
Yes, yeah, I like that, and I as you said, nation building and your background in that theoretical framework. Yeah, when you look today at Farmville or Clash of Clans or all these other games, and I know some people that are really spending a lot of time into these universes, but they're not building up anything because they're just wasting their time. And although they they might have like the top 10 score, whatever, they don't. It doesn't crystallize into anything because it's just a centralized party that can just switch and kill it for instantly. While doing that on Axie, if you build up a reputation or a level like that, if you decide then to do something else, other people could buy it from you, or you could trade your reputation or your weapons or your goods that you have built up, basically.
It's also right. It's just that in-game currencies in the future are going to be real currencies. They're going to be real cryptocurrencies, right? So for example, within our land, right? Like if you can attack a resource structure, harvest it, and that might be DAI. It might be Axis, our own governance token, right? And that's, I think, like what has made this technology click for people, right? Because it can be very abstract. It can be very inaccessible for everyday people. But these are the people who need blockchain the most. And so what we've seen, for example, in the Philippines, in Indonesia, in Venezuela, is that people who have never used decentralized applications before are playing Axie, even though it's very incredibly difficult to get started. Why? Because there is a concrete benefit. Venezuela is a place where people play RuneScape, farming gold for pennies, cents per hour. So the Axie is actually, it makes a lot of sense to Venezuelans because they've actually already farmed video games for wages in the past. It's just been at in a much more limited capacity because of the lack of free market.
Exactly, and like the non-fungible tokens and the NFTs that you're building in Axie, they have much more tangible value than, in my opinion, a lot of other like NFTs in the space. I particularly like how you did your collaboration with Aave, for example, or with Kyber Network, where you then stake some Kyber or some Aave, and you get these really cool items that are actually totems or items you can put on your land to get more like power-ups, right? And I think that's a really cool way of spreading awareness about NFTs. And this was before the whole this whole boom cycle that we're in right now. So what is your views? What is your views on NFTs, like Paris Hilton minting NFTs or certain rappers doing NFTs compared to like in-game item NFTs that actually have purpose or actually have like some features? How would you compare those two?
Yeah, definitely. So my framework for looking at NFTs is that I look at the scarcity, I look at the utility, and I look at the aesthetics. And, you know, obviously for certain like art, it's a lot based on, you know, there's a scarcity element and then there's the aesthetics, but there is also utility, right? In that, okay, this artist might have a, you know, a really great future. I might be able to, you know, use it to attract followers to my profile, things like that. So that's the way. So yeah, I basically call that the triple threat framework, where, you know, I want to understand what the supply is like. I want to understand like what I can do with that asset. And you know, it needs to kind of appeal to me, you know, from either a collector and aesthetic standpoint, right? So to me, right, my favorite Axies are mystic Axies, right? So they are capped supply, right? So there's only you know, around 1,200 mystic Axies, and you know, you know, they have unique aesthetics. And, you know, they will also be the only parts that will be able to be upgraded to legendary, which is like level 4 or level 5 in the future. So I think Mystic Axies are a great example of something that, you know, and then, so within the Axie ecosystem, right now there are, you know, tens of thousands of players. There's still only 1,200 Mystic Axies. So, you know, the price of Mystic Axies used to be 0.5 Ether each. Now it's around 8 ETH each. Why? Because as the game gets more, it gets more popular, you know, there's more collectors who come in and more people find out about it and are like, oh, like, what's a Mystic Axie? Like, I need one for myself. And it's a digital flex, right? Even Delphi Digital owns Mystic Axies, right? So there are even like funds that are into NFTs that are getting these, and it's kind of like, yeah, it's a way to make a statement. So yeah, so in terms of like, right, there's a lot of junk coming on into the market in NFTs, right? Like celebrities, kind of B-list celebrities, I would say, like trying to monetize their fan base. I mean, I personally think that's kind of bad. You know, I'm someone who, right, when it came to DeFi, which are the projects that did well? Predominantly, it's the projects that were building through the bear market and getting product market fit, even when the market wasn't hot. And that's also how I, you know, look at the NFT space. So, you know, if they weren't here building during the bear market, like I'm automatically like quite skeptical. So yeah, I think that's really my framework.
That makes a lot of sense, and I like the triple threat framework that you're mentioning there, and I think a lot of more people should use a framework like that to actually, before they FOMO into an NFT or something like that, to, you know, to actually look to that framework that you mentioned. So
yeah, there's an article. It's called How I Value Crypto Collectibles, I believe, I wrote it in 2018, but it's still out there, and I think it still works.
Wow, I will look that up, and I will place a link to that article in the description below for you guys if you want to check it out. That is like timeless content, right? So like you came to this realization, like NFTs, what is it? You already understand this since probably 2017, 2018. You were like, wow, this is going to change. You wrote down your thoughts, and it's still the same. And now the late majority is just lagging behind and like understanding what is now coming. And I think if an artist just puts something on chain, it doesn't has necessarily the value. There needs to be things connected to it, or it needs to be a special event. What I do like is, for example, the random block hashes NFT parts. When you know, these things make a little bit more sense to me. But an NFT without any utility and just aesthetics maybe makes less sense to me. I was very much surprised, by the way. I use Zapper. I use a lot, and then suddenly I saw my Axies popping up in my Zapper portfolio. It's like, that's interesting. So, you know, the NFT collectibles that you collect also in Axie are, you know, they're getting valued, and they're actually getting recognized by funds and by other people, and that's at the end of the day is what makes value valuable, right? If more people give it value, then it becomes more valuable.
I think exactly, like the value, a lot of the utility of an NFT is in the community, right? It's in the, is there a group of people who recognize this as something that's awesome? So yeah, it's really, you know, NFTs are super glue for communities. They bring people together and kind of create this hive mind effect where everyone, for example, within the Axie community, right? Everyone is unified in that they want Axie to become a huge phenomenon, a huge game. Everyone has literal skin in the game. And there are many different ways to, you know, kind of get that skin in the game, right? It's like you can become a collector, you could, you know, you can own access, you can be a landowner. There's different ways to get involved that appeal to different archetypes of people, that brings in different types of creativity, different types of ideas, which makes the network more resilient because you have diversity of thought, right? Like if you study the Constitution, and I really do think of Axie as a digital nation. Alexander Hamilton in Federalist Number 10 says that the only nation that is very resilient is a nation that's kind of very decentralized. Actually, if you read the Constitution in the Federalist Papers, it's actually an argument for decentralization, where they say that you need a large and diverse, broad republic, both in physically, and this is why we have the Electoral College, to basically make sure that, you know, two states don't basically determine the outcome of every single election. That you need to win a broad, you know, kind of base of you know, to get consensus. But yeah, so basically, you know, I think what we're seeing with Axie is the birth of a digital nation that is, you know, comprised of people from all walks of life, right? From crypto whales to, you know, art collectors, to people who, you know, $2 to $3 an hour is life-changing opportunity. I think that's really the special thing about Axie, is that it's bringing all these types of people together that would have never met, and creating these bonds between them. There was just an announcement today by, if you know, Gabby from,
Yes.
he created something called Yield Guild, which is basically, it's an in-game guild with a mission of farming in the metaverse, right? So the guild bank is really an actual, right? It's like there's actual real cryptocurrencies within this guild bank. They're, you know, basically acquiring all these NFT assets, lending them out to the players, and taking a cut of the proceeds. So this, you know, future of work is already starting to happen. It's already here. You just need to look closely. Yeah, it's, you know, it's basically that same idea, right? Where the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. You know, we're just, for some reason, we're blessed and we're lucky to be able to see and be a part of something that's going to, you know, over the next 20 years, totally revolutionize how games work.
Nice. Big shout out to Gabby and Yield Guild. I will definitely link that below as well. And I will look into that. And this is not, Yield Guild is not only focused on Axie, it's basically multiple, you know, overlaying group of people that are just playing NFT games and trying to maximize the value of their time, basically, I would say, right? And a similar thing is like Blackpool. You also have Blackpool Finance also. Now that's a bit more underground. So there's a lot of these things forming that will play a big role, in my opinion, in basically, maybe you can call it market making or something like that in this new universe.
Yeah, I mean, Blackpool, they just acquired an estate within the Axie universe, and yeah, they'll be, you know, they'll have basically farmers, scholars, basically players, right? That will be kind of working with them, working for them within the Axie universe. So yeah, it's really amazing to see these NFT funds / guilds / co-ops that are kind of basically forming, right? And it's interesting. Like I was actually a big World of Warcraft player, and our guild was also kind of run like a business. But the problem is we were making money, and Blizzard, that's against the Blizzard TOS, so we got banned. And yeah, so I think the reasons that I was interested in the space and that it kind of made sense to me is I was always trying to monetize my time in game, and I was always running into all these restrictions.
Yeah, I think that makes it more fun. When else I played, you can play games for fun. For me, I play Axie. It's a very addictive game. It's a lot of fun. But maybe if I spend some more time, I want to, normally in game, also in game design, what I know about game design is that you always want to give people that satisfaction of increasing a level, right? But if you just increase a level, it doesn't really mean that much. So if you go level up, okay, you're level 2 now. But if you actually go level up and you can see like, wow, there are these people that are level 20 and they are actually making some money with this work, then it feels more real. If you level up, you actually achieved something that's worth some value. And that makes playing games more fun, I would say, because it becomes more realistic.
Yes, I mean, as long as people are spending money within the universe for fun, for pleasure as well, there's no reason that all that money should go to to one centralized entity, right? It should be part of the real economy, and that over time, it's even better for the main creators of the game, if there is one, because that makes the game much larger. It makes the scope of the game much larger, I believe, as well. But that's just a hypothesis. But so far, I think like we're on track to see this hypothesis come true in the next 10 years.
Yeah, and what is the most beautiful thing, in my opinion, is that, as you said, Blizzard, they say it's not allowed for you to build this economy or to do this. And I don't think they say this per se because they don't want it or they're evil. I think they say this because on top of them, they have their regulators that are just coming down on them. Like, wait, we are the nation state and we don't like it when people are making money not through our ways of controlling this. And this is democratizing a lot of that. And that's like, I think that is also what you mean, right? Like you see these new nation states that are basically digital, and they're basically a game. They're it's not like you cannot get a passport or you cannot really do that kind of stuff, but you will be in that game universe. You're very highly recognized if you're high in that game, and you probably will have entrance to some cool meetup groups that other people don't have or whatever, right? So it gives status, and it gives this new kind of angle to your where do you digitally live? Do we all want to live in Facebook? Do we all want to live in Instagram, or do we actually maybe want to share our lives more in a game like Axie or other NFT games? I would prefer that, actually, to be honest.
Definitely, there's a huge social component where, right, even right now it's happening all in Discord. In the future, it will go migrate into in-game chats and things like that as well. Yeah.
It's still, although we're now experiencing this boom. Do you think we're still early, or we're already quite mature in the space?
I mean, it's definitely really early. It's like 1988 in terms of the UX, right? So I kind of think that obviously it's like, the user experience is not there yet, but there are a lot of really smart people who are really well funded, working on this issue, and we're one of them. We're building Ronin, which is our scaling solution. It's basically a UX solution. It's something that will make blockchain games, Axie Infinity, just very easy to use, and with all the benefits of blockchain, without a lot of the headache. All right, so there'll be social login, gas-free transactions, and so yeah, it's going to be really awesome. We're also working on, right now it's very difficult to get started with playing Axie, and so if people are really interested in getting involved in the ecosystem, I usually just tell them, okay, like maybe get some Mystic Axies, get some land, maybe you can get some access. Like obviously none of this is financial advice, but that's how people are getting involved right now. And I mean, because it actually is very kind of difficult to just start get buying 3 Axies, which are quite expensive. The price of Axies went from 30 cents to I think around $100 each. Right. So now it's like it can be very difficult to get started as an everyday user. So yeah, I think that, you know, so one of our solution to that is that we're actually going to be building soulbound Axies, which are basically free to try Axies, where people can start playing the game. The earning ability for these, you know, for these free to play users will be much lower. They'll still get a tiny taste of it, like, oh, like this thing that I'm earning is, you know, we're going to call it free to play to earn, free to play to earn. And it's going to be maybe 5%, 10%. And then they get a taste and they see, oh, like this game is actually really fun. And then they meet the community, they learn more. Then that they're okay to make a economic decision, you know, that might be kind of significant for them. So that's also, you know, the way that we're looking at it. And I think it's a solid plan. I think it's going to get us to, you know, 500,000 users pretty quickly.
Wow, that is a very good solution, because like for me, like I actually got introduced by yourself when you were in the Philippines, and by Peter, a friend of mine, and he introduced me and he showed me how it worked, and I was just, oh, okay, and I kind of find it much more easier now than it actually was already. So, you know, hats off to that, and you're moving really fast on that. And I think that then the next solution is to yeah, you now live on the Ethereum ecosystem, partly on the Binance ecosystem. So there's actually a lot of like places where you live, right? And you're gonna move now. You're gonna make your own chain. It's like a proof of authority chain where you will have much more freedom to basically really build a chain dedicated to NFT games, right? If I'm correct.
Yeah, so we have Ronin. It's actually already live. It's processed $3 million in NFT sales over the last month. And so basically land and items are on Ronin. The big task is moving Axies over to Ronin, which is also going to have the biggest usability improvement as well. So we're super excited for that. Yeah, you know, I think Ronin is built for NFT games. We're already seeing other game developers. We're not quite ready, I would say, but we're already seeing like really awesome game developers coming to us saying, "Hey, like, you know, we're interested in using Ronin. When can we get started?" So I think that's also going to be a really huge opportunity. And I think part of the bull case for NFT gaming is that, you know, Axie is going to be huge. And Axie being huge is going to attract more quality game developers to the space, and this is going to, you know, kind of act as a positive feedback loop.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. And how do you see that? Because the Rodent chain right now is a proof of authority chain, right? So it is a separate chain. And I understand that right now building a game on a Ethereum chain is really hard. So building a proof of authority chain where, as far as I understand, Samsung and Ubisoft are also, you know, basically authority like nodes in this system, if I'm correct, right?
So Ubisoft, Binance, nonfungible.com, DappRadar, Spark, those are, you know, the current validators. And I hope I didn't miss any, but yes. And basically right now it's operating as a POA chain. In the future, we will likely upgrade it to basically a delegated proof of stake where, you know, we can have validators, you know, there may be a token at that time. And then over time, I think like, you know, we can upgrade it to become like a true, even almost a true layer 2 solution where, for example, you have the validators acting as aggregators and basically condensing the transaction data in some form, right? There's either ZK Sync right now or optimistic rollups. It's kind of a little bit technical, right? But basically what the idea is that these validators condense the data into something that's very much smaller and much more lightweight, and then posting that on Ethereum mainnet or whatever ends up being the dominant settlement layer. So then it's kind of like you have the best of both worlds. where you have kind of the security guarantees of mainnet with also the scalability of a layer 2 or over sidechain. So yeah, that's the way that we see it right now. I think we believe in progressive decentralization, right? So we want something that works right now that's gonna allow us to get the next 10,000, 50,000 users and upgrade over time as it makes sense and as the technology progresses. True layer 2s are really not ready for NFTs right now. For example, like ZK Sync doesn't even have smart contracts enabled. Optimism, we'll see how that goes, but I still believe that that's mainly for DeFi. So the road for scalability for NFTs in terms of becoming on true layer 2, it's I think the near future is side chains, like Ronin. And
well,
maybe just Ronin.
I agree and disagree a little bit with that. I think the true future will be like sharding. You will probably have like a game shard kind of maybe in the Ethereum ecosystem as well. But I do see that because you have a game where there is a lot of fights if you're gonna build all your cities and all your land, and if another city attacks another city and steals resources, this needs to be accounted on in a ledger, right? So I see there your Ronin chain is really cool. But then I would say then there is a Ethereum shard where you can probably sync into, which is much cheaper than how it functions right now. And
that would be really great. Is when sharding comes, is like that we can basically sync right on certain intervals to that gaming shard. Something like that could be the long-term equilibrium.
Yeah, and I think it's a very interesting way. What I like, I was doing some research on this, and I saw Luxo, a little bit unknown project, but I think it. It's also like an NFT project, not really to do with games, more like NFTing the Nikes and the other like corporates. And they basically already building on Casper FFG, and they're being like already E2.0 ready to become a game like this NFT gaming shard. Which I think is a very interesting way to do it. But then again, if you look indeed at Casper FAG or other chains, it's still the smart contracts and stuff. They're not as advanced as the way Ronin is now implemented with the BOA network. I think it's much more flexible, and you basically port it over all your land and everything, and you're now porting over your Axies, and it's much more flexible. So I think progressive decentralization is a very good name for that, and I think it's very good for the whole ecosystem as well. And at the end of the day, the more we have more like different change, although it's maybe more centralized, more decentralized, it doesn't matter. As long as we grow the ecosystem and make them all sync together, we become more and more unstoppable for any bad actors that want to stop this.
Definitely. I mean, the way that I see it is, we have to be adoption maximalists. Now I'm actually kind of an idealist, but we need to do what's best for our users, and our users are begging us for Ronin, and they love it so far, the way that it works for land, and the main question that they ask us is when will Axies be on Ronin. So they're so excited about it, and I can't wait to I can't wait to deliver that for them.
Yeah, because it's really needed, right? So like I think when you start playing Axie Infinity, you will see you get the love potions and all that, but when you actually want to breach your Axies or when you want to do all these actions, it can be very expensive at this point, unfortunately. So
the cool thing is that Axie is really the only NFT game with traction right now. Why? Because gas has killed every single other one, all the other games. So the fact that Axie is real play to earn, and that we have this carefully constructed economy, has allowed us to even grow and even thrive despite the really high gas costs. I think we're if you check DApp Radar on any given day, we're usually like the 5th or 6th most used application on Ethereum, and so I think we're up there with $1 billion protocols. So it's definitely really needed to have a solution where our players, I think, are spending a couple of $100,000 each week on gas. So.
Yeah, that is indeed insane. Yeah, I see you right there. So in the game category, you're basically number one with a volume of 100, almost 200K a day. It's amazing. And I think this will only, if the gas goes actually go low, this will increase dramatically. So, let's scale progressively. And, do you have any, so yeah, Rodent is already live. You can already port over your items and your love potions. As far
just
as
land and items, not love potions. Yeah.
Okay. You can port over land and items already to the Rodent chain, and then trade or in a much with much lower fees. Huh? And it's basically also yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, 0 fees right now on Ronin.
0 fees. Well, that is amazing because you're in the testing phase.
You get 100 free transactions a day. In the future, we'll probably add certain fees, maybe on withdrawal and certain transactions.
That is amazing, and it's the whole NFT space, the whole game space is moving so fast. But I know when I was playing Axie the last time I played it, it's really cool. Actually, you can install. You have to buy some Axies. You install the application on your phone, and then you scan the QR code, and you can start basically playing on your phone wherever you are without any weird gas fees. Actually, so that's really cool, and I would really recommend everybody to check that out. And yeah, maybe any closing remarks you want to give, Jehos, to our viewers, or any things you want to share before we close it off for today?
Yeah, so I think if you're interested in learning more about Axie, I think the best thing to do is to join our Discord. So that's just discord.gg/Axie, AXIE. Yeah, I think the community there is super welcoming, and I think that anyone who takes 5 or 10 minutes out of their daily life to go and talk to the amazing people in our community, they're going to be really impressed, and they're going to realize that this is a movement that they want to be a part of. So yeah, if you were kind of intrigued by what we talked about today, I highly suggest coming into Axie Discord.
That is amazing. I will link to all the links below. We did the Axie Twitter, of course, the Axie website, and just go to the Axie Infinity website. It's such a beautiful design. I think the most beautiful game design I've seen in a very long time. So very, very much respect for you, and very, very cool what you're building. And let's see how the progressive scalability, how that progresses on Ronin, and how we can still sync back to this main layer, and how we can all work together to create the new game nation states together, and see how we can thrive there. So yeah, thank you all for your attention, and thanks you all for coming to the channel. And yeah, I hope to all see you in our new nation state that we will create. And to play some cool Axie games, and to form some clans, or build some lands, or breed some Axies together. So I'm looking forward to that, guys. And I see you in the next show, guys. Thank you very much. See you in the next one. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Great. Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you.